Today, Congressman Al Green does what few in Washington dare to do. He looks power directly in the eye and calls it by its name. A moment where political caution was thrown aside and moral outrage took center stage. No filters, no hesitation, no fear. If you thought Congress couldn't shock you anymore, think again. Let's get into it.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to speak truth to power, as well as speak truth about power. I rise to speak truth about what's happening to the Palestinians in Gaza. I rise to ask, what do you call it when you have a group of people who are being denied food, denied the very essence and necessities of life, when you're destroying their homes, when you're destroying their schools, when you're destroying their churches, their infrastructure? What do you call it when you do this to them as a group? Collective punishment. It is called collective punishment, Mr. Speaker. And what do you call it when you have a group of people who are being pushed around, pushed from one end of Gaza to the other, when they are literally being slaughtered as they are seeking food? What do you call it when people say that they ought to be removed from their land? You call it ethnic cleansing, Mr. Speaker. And what do you call it when it appears to me that there is a deliberate, systemic effort to destroy in whole or in part the Palestinian people, to destroy them in whole or in part? We are witnessing before our very eyes, Mr. Speaker, genocide in Gaza, and we say nothing. I am amazed at how this country that stands for liberty and justice for all, this country that has a Statue of Liberty, how this country can see what's happening in Gaza and not call it what it is. There's a fear among us. We refuse to speak truth to power. We refuse to speak truth about power. Well, today, I'm going to do it. And I'm doing it because these are precious babies that are being slaughtered. You see the bodies. You see the homes. You see the infrastructure. But you say nothing? Who are we? What is wrong with us? What is going on? Well, here's what's going on. We have an authoritarian leader who is supporting another authoritarian leader. Our president, the Prime Minister of Israel, they are working together, and they are doing this. Our president said there would be hell to pay if they did not move or if they did not surrender. Not in those exact words, but that was his intentionality. And he's talking about the people of Gaza now. I'm not talking about Hamas that did a dastardly deed. What Hamas did can never be justified. They were wrong, but you can't justify what's happening in Israel right now. It is collective punishment. It is ethnic cleansing. And it is genocide. So, Mr. President, Donald John Trump, I say to you, Mr. President, you've been trying to hide from this. But, Mr. President, you can't hide. I charge you with genocide. Mr. Netanyahu, you are the perpetrator. I charge you with genocide. And also, I want this Congress to know that I voted against sending any additional monies to Israel for munitions. I voted against it. And this genocide is going to continue until we have the courage to say no more money to kill babies. No more money to say you're going to move people and create some sort of Riviera on the Mediterranean. No more. I will not vote for any more money. I stand where I stand. I said what I said, and I mean what I mean. We cannot, as a great nation, continue to stand silent as we see collective punishment, ethnic cleansing, and genocide in Gaza committed against people and children. We can't stand silent. History will not be kind to us.
The gentleman's time has expired.
What we just witnessed in this fiery hearing when Congressman Al Green stood on the House floor and spoke the words, "And still I rise," it wasn't just rhetoric. It was a deliberate invocation of moral duty, of historical consciousness, of the long tradition of lawmakers who refuse to be silent when witnessing injustice. His speech today wasn't cautious, it wasn't diplomatic, it wasn't politically calculated. It was raw moral clarity. And whether you agree with every word or not, what he did was force America to confront a truth many are terrified to say out loud. Green began with a simple but piercing question. What do you call it when an entire population is denied food, shelter, safety, and the basic conditions of life? These aren't abstract academic terms. They're the words human rights organizations have used for decades to describe the deliberate targeting of civilians, collective punishment, ethnic cleansing. And when destruction is systematic and aimed at erasing a people in whole or in part, the world calls it genocide. What makes his speech especially striking is that Al Green didn't shy away from naming names. He didn't bury responsibility under vague phrases like global tensions or complex conflict. He directly accused two leaders, Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, of overseeing a campaign that has led to mass civilian death. That is not a small accusation. It is a political earthquake. And yet, what Green is doing here is bigger than politics. He's forcing America to grapple with the moral weight of its own silence. This is a nation that prides itself on standing for justice, liberty, and human dignity. A nation with a Statue of Liberty that literally welcomes the tired and poor. And here we are, watching the death toll in Gaza rise into the tens of thousands. Children, families, entire neighborhoods erased. And much of Congress can't even bring itself to say the word genocide. Green's speech exposes something uncomfortable: fear. Fear of political backlash, fear of being labeled anti-Israel, fear of breaking with a long-standing foreign policy orthodoxy. And yet, silence, especially from the world's most powerful democracy, is not neutral. Silence is complicity. What he emphasized, and what often gets lost in the discourse, is that condemning the mass killing of civilians is not a denial of Israel's right to security. He stated clearly that Hamas's October 7th attack was morally indefensible. There is no conflict between holding Hamas accountable and holding governments accountable. You can oppose terrorism and oppose genocide. These are not mutually exclusive positions. They are morally essential positions. Green also did something most members of Congress avoid. He acknowledged America's role, our weapons, our funding, our political cover. He openly declared that he voted against further military aid because he refuses to support the continued killing of children. He said plainly that history will not judge this nation kindly if we look away from what is happening. Whether you see Al Green as courageous or controversial, one thing is undeniable. He is expanding the boundaries of what elected officials are willing to say publicly. And that matters, because political courage is contagious. Every time a leader breaks the silence, it becomes slightly easier for the next one to speak up. And the truth is, what we are witnessing is not normal. No democracy should be comfortable with images of mass graves, bombed-out refugee camps, or starving civilians walking miles for food only to be killed in the process. No democracy should be comfortable with ethnic cleansing rhetoric from government officials. No democracy should be comfortable with blank checks for endless war. Green's speech is not just a critique, it's a warning that moral complacency is a luxury that costs human lives. And it's a reminder that Americans have the power and responsibility to demand better from their government. And if nothing else, his speech forces us to ask ourselves a question that will echo long after this moment. When history looks back on this chapter, what side will we say we were on? The side that stayed quiet because it was politically easier, or the side that refused to look away? If you believe accountability matters, if you believe human life matters, if you believe America's moral leadership matters, then now is the time to speak, to question, to demand humanity in our foreign policy. Not later, not when the damage is done, not when the world is writing books about what we failed to prevent. Make your voice heard.